Welcome back to the instructionals covering simple surveying. In this instructional we will explain what gear is used to complete a simple survey and how to set up and use the gear. The main gear is illustrated on this slide. The first item is the extendable surveyor's staff. This is a rigid measure usually made of aluminium that extends to 5 meters in height. It is important to pay attention for overhead obstructions, particularly power or data cables. When using the staff, you must ensure to hold it straight and plumb, otherwise you can introduce errors in the survey. The next is a surveyor's tripod. The surveyor's tripod is quite rigid and sturdy, with pointed feet and footholds so that you can press the tripod into the soft ground to make sure that it is very stable. If the tripod is moved mid-cycle, you will have to start the cycle again, as it is impossible to establish the exact height as it was before. The next piece of equipment is the horizontal sight. This is what you mount onto the tripod and set it to a horizontal bearing using the onboard spirit level. You look through the sight to read the measurements of the survey staff. The sight has a crosshair and magnification that allows you to accurately read the measurements on the survey staff over long distances. The final bit of kit is the long fabric tape, usually between 30 to 50 meters in length. We use these to proportionally set out our survey markings rather than measuring along the ground. The reason for this is that we cannot accurately translate measurements that are running down a hill onto a plan that is a perfect horizontal projection. Running measurements along the ground are not true length. Only if you hold the tape perfectly tight and horizontally can you accurately measure distance in plan and true length. There are techniques for measuring distances and bearings using different equipment. However, it is a more complicated process and outside the scope of this simple survey instructional. The first bit of kit to get established is the tripod. Extend the legs to a height that you are comfortable to read at a standing height. Ensure that you set the tripod at your first station point so that you can get a reading back to the benchmark. The process video will explain more about this. When setting the tripod legs, push them into the ground so that the tripod is sturdy. Try and get the top plate of the tripod as horizontal as you can by looking at it. This will save time later when you come to line up the horizontal sight. The horizontal sight should be in a hard travel case. Take it out and look underneath. The threaded connection on the base plate is what you will screw into the connector which is on the tripod. Before you attach the horizontal sight onto the tripod, adjust the leveling screws on the underside so that they are all approximately the same and aligned with the horizontal indent as shown on this slide. Attach the horizontal sight to the tripod with the screw fixing which is situated on the underside of the tripod plate. Make sure that the screw is tight and that there is no movement of the sight relative to the tripod. The most important thing to do before starting your measurements is to make sure the sight is truly horizontal. You do this by adjusting the 3 leveling screws underneath the sight, and the aim is to get the bubble in the spirit level to sit within the circle as marked. Be patient and test the way the different leveling screws work until you get a feel for how the bubble moves, and eventually you will get the bubble to float in the circle. When level, the bubble should sit inside the circle marked. It is unlikely you'll get an absolutely perfect bubble in the center, but so long as it is inside the marked circle, it will be okay. When you have the bubble inside the circle, swivel the sight around 90 degrees and recheck and readjust if necessary. Here is the side view of the sight. You can rotate the sight easily by hand, but there is also a fine-tuning rotation knob on both sides. The eyepiece that you look through to make the readings is on the right per the current slide. Looking from the back of the sight, you can see the main elements. There is a long sight on the top that is used to get the general direction pointed approximately towards the horizontal survey staff. You can easily rotate the sight by hand, but there are 2 knobs either side that will allow you to make finer, smaller rotations when you are looking through the sight. There is a focus knob on the right, and the sight itself also has a focusing ring that can be adjusted in case you are long or short-sighted. You can always check the status of the horizontality of the sight by glancing to the inclined mirror on the left. Always make sure that you use the rough sight on the top of the equipment before looking through the eyepiece, so at least you know that you are pointing the sight approximately in the right direction of the survey staff. Reading the survey staff takes a little getting used to. Each block on the measurements is equal to 10 millimeters. Practice reading the staff up close before looking through the sight the first time. Measurements are read out in meters and usually to 3 decimal places. The reading in this instance would be 1.140. Make sure you agree as a team how you read the measurements out to each other to avoid transcription errors. Working in the team, usually one person is responsible for moving the staff around the site. One person is reading the measurements through the site, and the third person is writing down the measurements on your plan. In this example, the reading would be 0.490. Sometimes, when you are very close to the staff, it is difficult to read the main base 10 numbers, and if that is the case, then ask the person holding the staff to run their hand up the staff, and when you see their hand through the sight, stop them and get them to read the base 10 number closest to that position. In this final example, we see that the sight is halfway through the 10mm block. In this case, we do a reading in the 5mm interval, but we would not make a reading of any finer resolution than 5mm. The reading here, therefore, would be 2.725. That concludes this instructional, giving an overview how to set up and use the survey gear. Refer to the instructionals and other workshop information relating to the process of completing the survey.